guys! Today I'm coming at you with a book review. My coworkers and I have recently started up a book club, and for our first book we read The Girls by Emma Cline. This is a debut novel by Emma Cline and it just came out in June 2016. The book follows the main character Evie during the summer of 1969. It's based loosely on the Charles Manson cult and murders. In the book, Evie ends up joining this cult, which at the time she doesn't realize that it's a cult, led by this man named Russell. The book is narrated first person from Evie's point of view years and years later. The book is broken up into 4 parts, and at the beginning of each part we hear from Evie as an older adult, and then we go into Evie as a 14-year-old. In the very beginning of the book we learn what happens at the end of the book, so the book is kind of just Evie telling her story, her feelings, and everything that happened. I am giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought this book was beautifully written. I really loved Emma Cline's writing. One of the things that I really enjoyed a lot was that when she was writing about Evie at the ranch, which is where the cult is, I just got this completely different feeling as I was reading it. I could feel Evie's emotions and how she got kind of pulled into that culture. And on the flip side, when Evie was back at home and back into, normal life, it had a whole different feel to it. And even though you already know what happens in the end of the book, I was still drawn in and I wanted to keep reading and figure out what happened. I also thought it was a really great perspective of a teenage girl and what teenage girls go through. Even though it was set in the 60s, I could still relate to Evie a lot as someone who grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s. Although I couldn't relate a lot to Evie in regards to her parents because her parents are very neglectful. I mean, she goes to this ranch and is missing night after night after night, and her mother doesn't even question that she's not at her friend's house. Even though I don't relate to that, I know that there are probably a lot of people out there who can. It's kind of interesting to see that dynamic and how Emma Cline kind of reaches into that teenage girl's mind and how those girls in the Charles Manson murders could have done such a thing. I didn't give it a full 5 stars just because I wasn't super intrigued by the characters. I did not like them, which might have been kind of the point. I'm super into character-driven stories, and if I don't like the characters, I'm not going to be as into the book. But I really think this book had a lot of great insight into teenage girls. I mean, obviously it's called The Girls. I really resonated with that a lot. I also want to warn you, if you are going to read this book, there is a lot of heavy stuff in it. There is rape, there is murder, obviously, and there's a lot of manipulation going on. So if that's something that you want to avoid, I would suggest not reading this book. If you've read The Girls, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you thought about it, and I'd love to have a discussion with you. I'm not doing a spoiler review of this book just because you already know what happens in the beginning of the book, and there's no really spoilers to give. It's more about the story, and it's about Evie as all of the events are happening. So you already know the events in the beginning of the book, you're just getting the perspective from Evie. I hope you enjoyed that review. I know it probably was a little short and probably not as interesting as my last review, but hopefully it was good. This is only my 2nd review so far, so hopefully I'll get better at them. But if you have any tips for me, let me know. Let me know what kind of things you want to hear from me during your review. I would love to know that so I know what you guys want. I will hopefully see you next week. Bye!